A family funeral where eyes didn't meet, where smiles looked rehearsed, and where one daughter's voice, years later, would shatter the illusion of peace. Maddie Brown, the one who stayed quiet through every scandal, finally spoke. And her words? They didn't just expose pain. They reignited a decade of questions about the family's darkest secrets. Because while one woman silenced her son's dreams with money, another silenced her daughter with fear. And at that funeral, everything collided.
I don't know exactly what it means.
This is the story fans say TLC never dared to tell the money, the manipulation, and the motherly masks that finally cracked. But what happened when the cameras stopped rolling changed everything. Part 1. For over a decade, viewers watched Maddie Brown grow up under the shadow of Kody and his wives, a home built on faith, loyalty, and secrecy. But in 2025, Maddie shattered the silence. During a casual podcast segment, she hinted that the family's internal defenses of Meri might have been covering something far darker. Her exact words, "You don't know what we've seen." Fans immediately froze. What exactly had Maddie seen? For years, Meri Brown was portrayed as misunderstood, a victim of isolation. But Maddie's tone carried weight, not gossip, but memory. It wasn't the words that shook people. It was the pain behind them. Within hours, social media erupted. Sister wives, fans, mostly women who had followed every tear, every confession, began connecting old dots. Remember the 2015 catfishing scandal? The withdrawn interviews? The moments where Meri's smile never reached her eyes? Fans began to wonder, was there emotional abuse within the family all along? Maddie's voice cracked when she said it. She's protecting someone. You can tell. This family has secrets deeper than TLC ever showed. And then something unexpected reignited the conversation. A funeral. Early this year, a quiet family funeral took place in Flagstaff. The cameras weren't there, guests were. Reports claim Kody arrived late, flanked by Robyn. Witnesses described her as emotionless, distant, almost detached. Meanwhile, Janelle and Christine sat apart, silent, avoiding eye contact. Maddie, who had always maintained neutrality, was seen leaving early, visibly shaken. A week later, her cryptic podcast comments appeared. The timing was impossible to ignore. Was Maddie's revelation triggered by what happened at that? Sources close to the family described the funeral as another power struggle with Kody, allegedly insisting on delivering the main eulogy, sidelining others who wanted to speak. One insider claimed Robyn's silence wasn't grief, it was control. She didn't want anyone to speak out of turn, the source said. This isn't the time for stories. Let Kody speak. For fans, this wasn't just another Brown family argument. It was the symbolic climax of everything that went wrong. Authority, silence, manipulation, and those left in the emotional crossfire. And Maddie's words suddenly sounded less like gossip and more like warning. There are things I can't unsee. I just hope Piab. Fans replayed that moment hundreds of times. Can't unsee? Those two words became the new center of the Sister Wives universe. Reddit threads exploded with timelines, cross-referencing episodes, old interviews, and photos from the funeral. The twist. A close friend of the family, leaked that Maddie had allegedly witnessed a private altercation years ago, one that cast Meri's behavior toward the younger children in a deeply troubling light. TLC insiders had known fragments, but never aired them. The emotional damage, though, had been real. And now, fans weren't sure who the real victim was anymore. In the weeks that followed, Maddie's name trended across the U.S. Fans demanded answers. Was she confirming hidden abuse? Or was she finally setting the record straight about emotional neglect that shaped her childhood? For many women, Maddie's courage struck a chord. They saw their own stories in hers unspoken truths, whispered pain, and the quiet resilience to break the cycle. Maybe this isn't just about the Browns anymore. Maybe it's about every woman who has ever been told to stay quiet. If you believe that truth deserves, tell us your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Part 2. Season 9. TLC's cameras captured what looked like an innocent family conversation. Dayton, the quiet and thoughtful teen, had been saving for months birthday money, small chores, and his weekly allowance. His goal? To finally buy a new video game console. A small joy after years of family upheaval. But when he shared his plan, Robyn's tone changed. She told him no. The money, she insisted, would go toward furniture, instead something for the family, not for him. It wasn't just the decision, it was the way she said it. You don't need a video game, honey. We need to be responsible. Let's use your money to help the house. And that moment, a 30-second scene, would spark a decade-long debate about parenting, power, and control. Within hours of the episode airing, fans flooded social media. Mothers across America, many who had watched the Browns for years, were outraged. That wasn't teaching responsibility, that was manipulation. She took away his autonomy. Why should a teenager pay for furniture when she buys designer jewelry? It wasn't just about money, it was about hypocrisy. Because, as fans pointed out, Robyn wasn't exactly frugal. From custom jewelry lines to personalized home designs, Robyn's spending choices had already drawn quiet criticism, but when she used Dayton's money for furniture, it crossed a moral line for many. To understand the firestorm, we have to understand the dynamic. Robyn entered the family as Kody's fourth wife, the so-called favorite, often accused of reshaping the family's priorities. Where the other wives focused on independence, Robyn emphasized unity, but under her rules. Robyn always said she wanted to teach the kids about responsibility, but it was selective when it suited her narrative. Dayton, her eldest son, had always been the obedient, sensitive one, fiercely loyal to his mom, which made this moment sting even more for viewers. Was this about teaching or about control? Fans noticed the look on Dayton's face, that momentary flicker of disappointment he tried to hide. It wasn't rebellion, it was surrender. Dayton didn't argue. He simply nodded, accepting that his money, his dream, would become a couch. That image broke hearts across America, especially mothers who saw their own sons in that silence. He looked crushed. That's not parenting, that's guilt-tripping. He deserved that joy. But then came the twist, one that changed how fans saw Robyn forever. Months after that episode aired, devoted fans began piecing together timelines, matching Robyn's spending patterns from other episodes. One revelation shocked even longtime viewers. Around the same period she told Dayton to use his savings for furniture, Robyn had allegedly made a series of luxury purchases, including decor and personal items bought under her own account. Fans accused her of hypocrisy, teaching responsibility while enjoying personal indulgence. And for many, that scene became symbolic, not about money, but about power and emotional leverage. Because when control hides behind a motherly love, it can be the most dangerous kind. Experts on family dynamics even weighed in, describing it as a textbook example of emotional manipulation masked as moral teaching. Years later, Dayton remains private, respectful, and independent. But that clip, that small moment, still defines how many view his relationship with his mother. Was Robyn trying to teach responsibility, or was she preserving control under the guise of love? For thousands of women who watched that moment, it hit close to home, a reminder of how emotional power can shape even the most ordinary family interactions. And perhaps that's why fans can't let it go, because this isn't just about a video game or a couch. It's about every time a child's voice was silenced for someone else's comfort. If you believe children deserve agency and emotional honesty matters, share this video. Comment below. Was Robyn wrong or misunderstood? Your voice shapes the truth. Let's deep dive. In full details, Part 3. For over 13 years, America watched the Browns' one husband, 4 wives, 18 children, a family built on shared faith and so-called unity. But behind every smile, there was control, quiet, emotional, and often invisible. Meri Brown, the first wife, once called Kody's rock, later isolated, misunderstood, and accused of emotional cruelty. Then came Robyn, the fourth wife, the so-called savior, arriving with promises of peace, but leaving a trail of tension. 2 women both accused of control. 2 children, Maddie and Dayton, each caught in their mother's shadow. The world saw only moments, but together, those moments told a much bigger story. In early 2025, Maddie Brown dropped a bombshell. During a podcast appearance, she said just 7 words that sent shockwaves across the Sister Wives fandom. "You don't know what we've seen." Viewers instantly connected the dots. For years, Maddie had subtly distanced herself from Meri. Now, her tone sharp, weary, suggested first-hand trauma. Longtime viewers recalled the infamous closet scene, where Meri confronted teenage Maddie in a moment of rage, caught off camera by producers, but discussed later in fan blogs. TLC never aired the full footage, but insiders say it marked the beginning of Maddie's emotional distance. And then, just days after her statement, tragedy struck. The funeral that followed became the breaking point for the entire family. A quiet service for a distant family relative became the stage for years of suppressed tension. Robyn visibly cold, withdrawn. Kody demanding control of the eulogy. Maddie seated apart, eyes fixed downward. Eyewitnesses described the atmosphere as ice. One attendee later shared on Facebook, "It wasn't mourning, it was power theater." And in that room, Maddie's restrained grief finally turned into silent rebellion. A week later, her cryptic podcast dropped, and suddenly, fans realized she might have been talking about more than just Meri. Because while Maddie spoke of pain, another scene from the past resurfaced, this time involving Robyn. The scene seemed harmless, a mother guiding her teenage son about money. But when Robyn told Dayton to spend his saved allowance and birthday cash on furniture, not the video game he'd dreamed of, something didn't sit right with viewers. That was manipulation, not parenting. He looked heartbroken. Why can she buy jewelry, but he can't buy joy? Robyn claimed it was a lesson in responsibility, but fans saw control disguised as care. According to Reality Tea Archives 2016, Robyn had recently launched her jewelry brand, My Sister Wife's Closet, spending thousands on marketing materials while asking her children to budget carefully. The parallels between Robyn and Meri, two mothers controlling through guilt, became impossible to ignore. Different generations, same power dynamic. And that realization would ignite a firestorm across the Sister Wives fandom. By late 2025, thousands of women online were dissecting every clip. Hashtags like #JusticeForDayton and #BelieveMaddie trended across TikTok. Fans began connecting the dots, not between episodes, but between emotional. What we often see in families like this is emotional substitution, love being replaced with control, care being traded for compliance. The twist? While fans debated who was to blame, Maddie's words and Robyn's actions were two sides of the same coin. Emotional power, parental control, generational pain repeating itself. And that brings us back to the funeral. Multiple attendees later confirmed. After the service, Maddie quietly walked out mid-reception, refusing to take part in the family photo. The symbolism wasn't lost on fans. It was her way of saying, "I'm done pretending." Years later, both Maddie and Dayton have carved their own paths away from the cameras, away from control. But their childhood moments, those split-second expressions caught by TLC, remain immortalized online, dissected frame by frame. For many viewers, this story isn't just about a TV family. It's about cycles of silence, about the quiet moments where children learn whether love is freedom or a obligor. Maddie's revelation wasn't just a confession, it was a mirror, a reflection of every woman who's ever stayed silent to keep peace, a reminder that emotional power, whether through guilt, money, or control, leaves scars deeper than any argument. Time moved on, but the echoes of that funeral never left. For Maddie, grief became transformation, not just for the loved one lost, but for the childhood she was finally mourning. Christine, ever the peacemaker, quietly reached out. In one private live stream, she said, "Healing means letting your kids find peace, even if it's away from you." Janelle echoed the sentiment on Instagram. "We're learning that silence doesn't protect anyone anymore." A movement was born online, #StandWithMaddie. Women across the U.S. began sharing stories of emotional control inside families that looked picture-perfect from the outside. And in those confessions, the Browns stopped being just a family on TV, they became a mirror. We call this emotional financial control. It's when a parent uses money, approval, or affection to shape a child's behavior, often believing it's love. According to the American Family Institute's 2024 report, 42% of teens say they've experienced guilt-based financial control at home. It rarely starts with anger. It starts with, "I know what's best for you." And that's why the Dayton scene resonated so deeply, not because of furniture or video games, but because millions recognized the script. 2011. Meri and Maddie's first public argument over curfew. TLC edited it as tension, but insiders called it distance. 2014. Robyn's jewelry launch. She preached budgeting while cameras caught custom furniture deliveries. 2018. Dayton moved out for college. In interviews, he said only one line about childhood finances. "Mom taught me how to sacrifice." Every year had a pattern obedience mistaken for harmony. When I saw Maddie's face, I thought of my own mother, same silence, same apology for existing. Dayton's story broke me. I saved for my own art supplies once. They became my dad's new drill. Across YouTube and Reddit, the conversation turned inward, not gossip, but recognition. For the first time, Sister Wives wasn't just entertainment. It was therapy. And that's when the fans stopped asking, "What happened to them?" and started asking, "What happened to us?" Multiple crew members, speaking anonymously through Reality T 2024, claimed entire scenes from the Dayton episode were trimmed, including a moment where Robyn hesitated, whispering, "Don't make me the bad guy." Editors allegedly removed it to protect family cohesion. If true, that single cut reframed the entire narrative, turning conflict into compassion, control into concern. It's a reminder that sometimes what we don't see defines the story more than what we do. The truth didn't end at that funeral. In the next episode, we uncover what really happened when Robyn and Christine met in private, the confrontation TLC buried for nearly a decade. If you believe in truth over appearances, hit like and share this video. Subscribe for more deep dive documentaries into Sister Wives' untold stories, because the next episode, it's about what really happened when Robyn met Christine in private.